Hey, hello everyone. Happy Sunday to you, and welcome to today's episode of Always Right with Jeff and Steven. Now, normally we try to beat around the bush a little bit and be playful with it and act like we're going to have a good and fun and happy time. However, I am starting out just off the bat saying that today is not going to be super fun. We do get to talk about. Um, some morons that got killed for their trouble in one of our stories today. But uh, mostly we're dealing with some heavy topics today because if you have not been paying attention this past week, it is becoming more and more evident that way I see it is that we have two sets of laws in this country, and they apply differently to different sets of people. And
hmm
we're going to go through some rather heinous and troubling things on the show today, and see how differently um, the other side gets treated, and
hmm
how people face the consequences of that. So, um, before that, let's check in with Steven and see if he can't keep us on a happy track for a little bit at least.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not a terribly bad day. Had a good day so far. I think you've had a good day so far, but I am sick of the double standard, and oh my goodness, did you just drink from a 2 liter? From
Yeah, I
from
got a
a
story.
2 liter?
I got a story about that.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I'm sick of the double standard, and the phrase is said on both sides. If the right didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards, and we say the same thing about the left. If they didn't have any, if they had any standards, there'd be double standards. Um, yeah, we're dealing with a double standard here, and it is frustrating whenever you look at that. Whenever you look at the heinousness of some of these crimes, it is unreal. And one of these hits particularly close home to me. We're going to talk about the shooting that happened in California. And people, right off the bat, they know we're from Mississippi. Almost all of our viewership is from Mississippi. But we don't have to go back very far in history to understand why this hits home for us. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, Jeff.
Yeah. So first, my story about my 2 liter. So we ordered Domino's the
You
other
drank from a
night.
2 liter, dude.
We ordered Domino's the other night, and this was not supposed to be with my order. So, but it came with my order. I don't know if I paid for it or not. I haven't looked, but thank you, Domino's. And once I get down to about half of a 2 liter, I just start drinking directly from the bottle. I'm the only person in my house that
Oh my
drinks Coke,
goodness.
so that's I like it.
Okay. Look,
Um,
yeah, hey,
all
you
right,
do you,
so
boo.
our first story, if you have been so just to let you know that it was not particularly difficult to think about what we to talk about this week, but there are some very unimportant and stupid things going on this past week. News
Yeah, we're not talking
personalities
about the
infighting.
stuff going on in the
Yeah,
yeah, we're not
and
talking about the stuff that's going on the right wing media right now. It's just
yeah,
it's
and
if you
the
want to learn about that stuff, Google it. It's fine.
and the thing that makes me angry about it is because it gives less space to things like this. We are going to talk
Yes.
about the Zulaks. The Zulaks, if that's how you say their names correctly, I'm not sure. It might be Zuluk.
I,
Are
I
a
think
gay
it's
couple,
pronounced I think it's pronounced perverts. I think
pedophiles.
that's
Yeah,
how it's
the
pronounced.
pedophiles
Yeah.
are a gay couple from the Atlanta area who have been in the news. They were in the news last year when they got arrested for abusing the two boys that they adopted in the state of Georgia. They were um, accused and arrested for child molestation charges, and the boys have been taken into custody, of course. Um, but these heinous, evil people are media darlings of the left. William and Zachary Zulak were political activists. They were involved in a number of campaigns. They were big supporters of Black Lives Matter. They started the No Hate LGBT campaign or whatever, and they were very famous in left circles, and it is alleged somewhat that their adoption applications were pushed through, ignoring normal processes and a number of red flags that might have held them up previously. That's a problem in and of itself, and it sort of gets to what I'm talking about with two sets of rules. If you
Mm-hmm.
are a diverse applicant, you're giving preferential treatment um, in something like adoption, and that's awful. Especially because if there's any preferential treatment that should be given in adoption situations, it should be normal man woman married couples. Not only should they be given
I'm going to
preferential
correct you.
treatment, gay people should not be allowed to adopt. Is
There you
probably
go.
the correction you were
And
trying to
my
make.
my correction was with your terminology. If adoption is any kind of preferential treatment should be made, it should be, and you know how I'm going to use these terms correctly, to married couples. So, Stephen, are you saying
Yes,
that gay people aren't married? That's exactly what I'm saying. They're in a relationship. They have an agreement, but it's not marriage. We are Christians. The Bible dictates that marriage is between one man and one woman. That is marriage, starting from Genesis 2 onward. So it should. I mean, I'll say I'm a little ambivalent about single mothers and single fathers, having children. If they can provide for them and they give them everything they need, okay. It's not ideal, married couples is the ideal, but yeah, no, gay people should not have a right to adopt children. They shouldn't be able to adopt
certainly.
children. Yeah.
Certainly, and this situation does not help the homosexuals' case. The couple were arrested again for molesting their adopted children. However, more facts are coming to light, according to an investigation done by Town Hall this past week that released. We are now finding out that they allegedly pimped out their children to local pedophiles in their area.
Hmm.
Um, not so the
Now,
accusations are numerous. Not only did they make and
hmm
distribute child pornography with their adopted sons, but attempted to arrange scenarios in which these children could be abused by other men. So I am I am outraged by
yeah.
this story. Um, we have such a hard time in the adoption circles in our country of people who would benefit greatly at the lives of of children, and
Hmm.
we are we Georgia, the state of Georgia released these boys to predators.
Hmm.
Um, and that's on the state of Georgia. That is this is awful. Uh, Zach Zulak has been accused of child rape in the past. Um, Not likely convicted, but any sort of credible accusation should disqualify a straight person, um, much less a homosexual. Uh, I I have not many more words to say other than just outrage.
Well, each week I say that this is what's going to get us canceled this week. I'm going to say something that's going to get us canceled. Don't be surprised when perverts do perverted things. I'm not surprised by this. When I got on Twitter and I saw the story, I saw tons of people sharing it and going, "I can't believe this happened. I can't believe that they." Blah, blah, blah. I can, I can, and we the term pervert has fallen under ill repute for whatever reason. But pervert is the same word that we use for perversion, and perversion is anything that's not natural. I'm literally just using the word the way that it is intended. The natural function of of mankind as man and woman. That is the natural function. And anything other than that is a perversion of the natural function. It is a perversion of God's order. I don't even care if you don't believe in God. If you're a evolutionist, if you believe in evolutionary biology, it is a perversion of evolutionary biology. There's nothing that makes sense about this. It is a perversion. So don't be surprised when perverted people do perverted things. And it's ridiculous, and it should be outlawed. You don't think that gay people should be able to have children? Yeah, I do. Actually, as a matter of fact, I do think they should be able to have children. Go get married to someone of the opposite sex and have as many children as you want. That's what I think.
Yeah. These were deviants, dirtbags, and I hope, I pray that justice is swift and merciless in this case.
Yeah, I pray they repent, because here's what they need to hear: hell is hot. Hell is real hot. So they need to repent of their erroneous ways. They need to obey God, and in the meantime, justice needs to be served. Now, two things can be true at once: justice can need to be served, and they can repent and be right in the eyes of God, and still have to pay the penalty for their sins. Which is what this is. A sin is the definition of sin. 1 John 3:4 is transgression of the law. Their sins against mankind, against people, against these children. They need to pay for those. Then they need to get right with God while they're paying for those. That's what needs to happen to these people, and that's the nicest thing I can say about it.
Right. So, from what I understand, they are both facing 9 life sentences for their crimes.
Do they not have the death penalty in Georgia?
I don't know, and I don't know if that's what they're up for. I doubt it.
I mean, probably not. I think Georgia has the death penalty, but I don't think that they would kill him for this. And I mean, okay,
That's what I was
I'm gonna have
saying.
2 things that get canceled this week. The government does have the right to kill people. Go read Romans 13. It says that the government does not bear the sword in vain. That means God has given government the authority to kill people, and the government needs to use that authority in situations like this. I firmly believe that rapists should be executed. I firmly believe that pedophiles should be executed. I firmly believe that murderers should be executed. I'm not saying they can't get right with God. They can get right with God before they're executed, but the state is given that right by God, and the state needs to use it for them.
That's another theme that you might sense in this episode as well. When the government elects not to punish adequately, things get worse for us. I don't know, it like just the whole idea for this episode came from just a general sense that here lately things are not as safe. Things are crime is on the rise everywhere. We have an issue here in our town where people break into houses in the middle of the day. They steal cash and jewelry, and they keep walking. That's a problem. There's someone that has been doing this in our area that has been arrested for it multiple times, which means they're not being convicted and jailed. When the government doesn't punish wrongdoing, innocent people pay the price.
That's right.
We talked a couple of weeks ago about the shooting, the robbery that occurred at a taqueria in Austin. It was, and the guy opened fire on this other man that was holding up the store. That is the kind of thing. Like, I borderline celebrated it, because that is the kind of thing that we now have to do because the government won't do their job. We either have police that will not arrest for wrongdoing, or we have police departments that are underfunded and understaffed. And then we have legal DA's offices that will not charge appropriately. And it has been shown time and time again, but people refuse to accept it. high police presence, high conviction rates, high punishment sentences. These things work.
Yeah, yeah. The guarantee of getting caught for committing a crime is what helps stop crime. People got in arms over the stop and frisk laws in New York City. Well, go look up the stats. Crime went down whenever they're doing stop and frisk. Like the possibility of getting caught is what makes people stop. So fund your police departments. A story that we're not even talking about is about this girl who ended up on the streets as a prostitute, being pimped out because she was misgendered by her parents or grandparents or something like that in the state of Maryland, wouldn't put her back in their homes because of that. That is a lack of policing. That is a lack of biblical moral value. And that is the downfall of this country.
Right. Just to clarify, it's a little bit confusing. She was misgendered by her parents, and then, uh, which is her grandparents. Her grandparents adopted her, and sexually trafficked outside of the state that they lived in, and into the state of Maryland, because I think they're in Virginia. And the state of Maryland did not release her back because of the misgendering. I guess she identifies as a man or whatever. And she ended up becoming a ward of
repeatedly.
Yes, she became a ward of the state and was sexually abused again because because they did not release her back to her parents. It is so backwards. Everything is so backwards.
That's why the title of this is A Nation of Laws. How is that lawful? Laws are supposed to be just. How is that justice? How is that doing right by the person? Oh, because they wouldn't call her he, we're not going to give them back. Okay, well, she's going to go get raped repeatedly now as being awarded the state and then ending up on the street. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous on its face.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I do have one that an LGBT story, a related story that I am happy to report on. So, we all know, I'm just the biggest sports fan in the world, probably.
Yes.
And if you know anything about me, you know that I am a hockey expert.
Sure.
For any
living in Mississippi, we have a lot of hockey.
Okay. I hate sports. I don't have a clue about hockey. I didn't even watch the Mighty Ducks growing up. But the hockey team, the Philadelphia Flyers, made the headlines this week because of their defenseman Ivan Provorov. Ivan Provorov is a player on the team, and Tuesday night was the Flyers' Pride Night warm-up. Why does the NHL have a Pride Night warm-up? Well, because the NHL is in America, and America has a certain religion that it adheres to.
I'm not a hockey expert either, but I watch a little bit of hockey, and I look at the type of person that plays hockey. I'm at a loss here.
I would say the same thing about the NFL, the NBA, and any other sport.
No, except for soccer. That is a girly sport.
Yeah. I love how we both went there.
That's expected. That's expected.
Yeah. So, other than soccer, but they all do this. They all bow to this garbage. Well, Ivan wasn't having it. He did not participate in the warm-ups on Tuesday night on religious grounds. He is a member of the Russian Orthodox Church, which Russian Orthodox Church, pretty traditional, not in line with the gay agenda. So
we don't have time to go through a whole history here, but orthodoxy is an umbrella term, and they all kind of have their own nationalities. He is Russian, if you couldn't pick it up from his last name, except for he's Russian Orthodox, but they would go along with Greek Orthodox and everyone else as well, all the orthodoxy. I mean, the Bible clearly states this is sinful. So what amazes me is he participated in warm-ups, by the way. He just didn't wear the rainbow gay
Hmm.
thing that they were supposed to wear. And
Gotcha.
when I listened to a lot of the commentators about this, and they were like, "This was a night of inclusivity. This was a night for not to focus on you. It was a night to be inclusive and help marginalized communities." So we're supposed to include everything but religion. We're not supposed to be inclusive of people's religious principles, and it is not bigoted. We don't hate these people. We just believe and know that the Bible teaches that this is a sin, and
Yeah,
therefore
and
we are not to celebrate it.
you know what? I'm done explaining that. I'm done. Like the appropriate response to something like this is people need to stop letting the enemy, which is what these people
Mm-hmm.
are, use their
Mm-hmm.
values against them.
Yeah.
Don't you want to be loving? Don't you want to be inclusive? Well, if you were loving and inclusive, you would wear the rainbow, bigot.
Yeah, and that's what they're saying, and it's not the case at all. You
And
clearly want to play this
and
clip.
well, no, and like my response to that is no, I don't. I don't want to be inclusive
No.
of this. I'm done. I
Yeah, if
do not
that's
let these
what
people
you think inclusivity is, then no, I'm
do
done.
not let these people use your values against you. Yes, this is just one of the many
Yeah.
interviews he did after. So this is sort of a taste of what it is, but every interview he has, like I've seen a couple of these,
Mm-hmm.
they have pressed him and pressed him on it, and he's remained firm. He's like, I'm not going to talk about that, guys. Like, this is all I'm going to say. We're done.
Everybody, and I respect everybody's choices. My choice is to stay true to myself and my religion. That's all I'm going to say. Like I said, that's all I'm going to comment on that. If you have any hockey questions, I would answer those.
Can you just clarify clarify your religion?
Russian Orthodox.
So with the game tonight, Ivan, obviously Kevin Hayes got a hat trick, and
Yeah, she starts asking him an actual hockey question.
And that's exactly what athletes and people who stand on principle and morals need to do. I respect people's right to choose, and I'm choosing my religion. Let's go on to the actual topic at hand. If you want to talk about hockey, let's talk about hockey. But I'm not gonna address this anymore. Like, if you respect people's choice to choose, then let me choose my religion and shut up and leave me alone.
Yeah.
The follow-up question was, well, what's your religion? Russian Orthodoxy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not inclusivity is not even the goal. The goal is subservience.
Yeah. Bow the knee. Bow the knee.
We don't look to athletes for our moral guidance. Like, Ivan Provorov participating in Pride Night is not changing anybody's mind about Pride Night.
Mm-mm.
It is an act of servitude. It is a signal to the regime that, okay, I am performing the rites. I am bowing at the altar. I am a good citizen.
It's religious observance. It's no different than a Jewish, conservative Jewish man wearing a Orthodox Jewish man wearing a yarmulke. It is no different than a practicing Pentecostal woman wearing the long skirt. It is observance to the religion. In the religion states, you have to wear this rainbow stuff. And if you don't, you have now committed sin, and you must make recompense for your sin to the religion. It is the same exact thing.
And more people need to do this. And people are going to get mad about, like, you talk about, you would listen to some of the commentary. People were nuts. People were crying. People were like just outraged at this. And it's not that big a deal.
The Canadian state media had a personality stating that the NHL should fine the Philadelphia Flyers $1 million because one of their players wouldn't wear the rainbow. If that's not penance for sin, I don't know what is. You are calling for a religious thing to be done to these people.
Yeah.
And so I want to continue on that track. Christian, those of you out there who claim that you are Christians, you cannot bow to this. You cannot wear the rainbow. You cannot participate in outing events. You cannot support these type of activities. And there's a lot of lies going around about the Bible right now. How the Bible doesn't homosexuality. The word was added to the Bible after the 1950s. Before that, it was considered to be pedophile. No, it wasn't. You can go look at 1 Corinthians 6 verse 9. You can see that the term that is translated as homosexual is arsenokoitai, which is in the Greek means man better, a man who beds another man. So no, it doesn't. They go, oh, well, in the first century, it wasn't about love. Today, it's about love. Do your history. As a matter of fact, in Rome, it was just as common for somebody to be in a lifelong relationship with a man of the same sex as a man than it was for them to be with a woman. It was very common in the first century for them to have long-lasting, loving relationships, and it was still sinful. As a matter of fact, this is what Paul tells the church in Rome concerning this matter, starting in verse 24 of chapter 1 of Romans. Romans 1:24. Therefore, God gave them over to the lust of their hearts to impurity, so that their bodies would be dishonored among them. For they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. For this reason, God gave them over to degrading passions, for their women exchanged the natural function of the man. For the women exchanged their natural function for that which is unnatural. And in the same way, also the men abandoned the natural function of the woman and burned in their desire toward one another, men with men committing indecent acts and receiving in their own persons the due penalty of their error. So if you want to argue that the term that is translated homosexual is actually pedophile, which it's not, you make that argument. But how do you describe what Paul just told the church of Rome? He described homosexuality between the woman and the man. It is a description. He goes on in verse 28 to say, and just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, God gave them over to depraved minds to do things which are not proper. He lists a bunch of sins, verses 29 and following. And look at verse 32. It says, and although they know the ordinance of God and those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but they also give hearty approval to those who practice them. You cannot give hearty approval to these things. So this man did what was right. He did not bow the knee. He said, I believe in God. I believe in the Bible. I cannot do this thing. And if you're a Christian, you need to do the same thing.
Yeah, you cannot participate in this. Good example is the local university in our town goes, especially in October, which apparently June is LGBT Pride Month, but October is Gay History Month. Apparently they get two. I don't know. But in October is when they do all of the runs and everything at our university. And people are pressured to take part in this. We have a dear friend and sister who took pictures at a drag show one year. We've had conversations with
they're
her
pressured
about
into
that.
doing this. If you don't, you're a bigot. If you don't show up to the outing event, you're a bigot. If you don't show up to the parade, if you don't participate in the walks, if you don't show up, then you're a bigot. You're really pressured into this. And then on top of that, there are university faculty and staff who are actively taking down conservative bulletins, who are going around campus and pulling down conservative bulletins. But yet we're in Mississippi, and that kind of thing won't happen here, is the way that we think about this.
Yeah. These things need to be hammered down on, and you can call it bigotry, you can call it prejudice, whatever. I don't care. Life was better. Society was better when you had to hide this stuff.
That's right. That's right. When
it's
you and
not
I were in
acceptable.
school, there was only one person that I knew of that was openly gay. And that was it. One. We went to high school 1,200, 1,300. One.
No. This is not acceptable. And I'm fed up with it. I am so fed up with it. There are children being abused on the regular, not just the couple that we were talking about. That's kind of stuff happens all the time. And now you're introducing the transgenderism element, and they're being abused in new and more disgusting ways.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick of it. We're done.
And you're commanding that kids see this. I mean, again, the Missouri school that took kids to a drag show without telling parents. Elementary school. I mean, the stories go on, and that's just from this week. We've mentioned 4 this week. It's ridiculous.
So, um,
So, I mean, there is an agenda, and the agenda of this perversion of the LGBTQ plus, whatever you want to call them, agenda, this perversion is that accepting that it exists is no longer good enough. Allowing things like gay marriage is no longer good enough. You must celebrate it. Like that is the goal of this movement. Your churches must perform the marriage ceremonies. Your preachers must get up there and talk about how this is a good for mankind. Your bakeries must bake the cake for whatever you want. You must teach this to the children at the public library, at the elementary school, and introduce them to the men who dress up as a caricature of a woman and dress half naked and basically strip on the stage. That is the goal of this agenda, that those things must be celebrated. And it's time to stop playing nice. It's time to stand on principle. Now, if you're a Christian, your principle is the word of God. If you're not, well, I don't know what you're going to stand on.
maybe you should stand on. That's fine if you're not a Christian. I mean, I think you should be, but maybe you should at least stand on the fact that we don't need to be perverting kids.
That's right. That's
'Cause
right.
that's
It's
what's
a very
happening.
simple principle to follow. Yeah, yeah. All right, what else is in the news? Let's go on to the next one, Jeff.
Right. Let's before I have a heart attack. So Georgia's just sucking it up lately. There another
Man.
thing we're not talking. There's lots of stories we're not talking about this week that are worth mentioning. Project Veritas came out and released a video this week of someone who sells curriculum to schools in Georgia, purposefully sneaking in critical race theory and critical gender theory. I mean, Georgia, I need it's a battleground, and I think it's because there's a toss up with. First of all, thank you, Donald Trump, but it's a toss up of whether it's going to go blue or red in the future.
Mm-hmm. It's purple,
and
it's very.
And so a lot of these these fights don't happen as much in Florida anymore because Ron DeSantis locked that sucker down.
And Georgia could have locked that down too if they had a better senatorial candidate than Herschel Walker.
Right.
Because Brian Kemp walked away with the governorship. Like, if you would have just had a mainstream Republican run against Raphael Warnock, that crazo, then they would have won easily.
So,
but all right, keep going.
Another story that's hitting Atlanta this week, and in fact hit just last night, is there was another round of Antifa riots. We haven't seen an Antifa riot in a minute. They kind of disappeared after Biden was elected. But if you remember the Trump days, especially during COVID, then you remember what was it called? The autonomous zone, Chaz.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was.
Chaz.
In Seattle, and just Black Lives Matter riots all over the place. Well, Antifa decided to pick this back up in Atlanta. So the story starts on Wednesday. Georgia has been undergoing a construction project to build a $90 million facility for a police academy. And it's attracted some protests. And one of these protesters decided to get violent on Wednesday and shot a state trooper. And he got killed for his trouble. Manuel Tehran. Manuel Tehran is someone who you've probably seen his picture all over the media at this point. He was killed after shooting a state trooper on Wednesday. And as an activist, a left-wing activist, this incurred the wrath of other left organizations like Antifa, who planned a quote-unquote night of rage for Saturday night in Atlanta. They went through all of the normal things that they like to do. They busted up a bunch of shops. They busted up a bunch of corporate offices. All in downtown Atlanta, which is where the poorest people live. And there's a very famous picture. It's the thumbnail for our episode today of a cop car on fire being that has been smashed in with bricks. And of course, the media, priceless, throughout all of this, can be overheard calling it a largely peaceful protest.
Largely, man, it's just like the Kenosha stuff, right? Largely, mostly peaceful demonstration with a fire going on in the background, dumpster fire
fiery,
going on in the background.
fiery, but mostly peaceful is what.
Fiery, but mostly peaceful. Yeah, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. I'm gonna tell Brian Kent. I'm gonna tell every governor in the United States how to fix this problem. You have the intelligence abilities to know when these riots are going to happen because Antifa is organized. It is an organization and it is organized. You find out when it is, you call in the National Guard, you bust skulls. That's how you fix this.
Right. And Atlanta police, I feel, have done a relatively decent job. I've seen some stuff of them busting some heads, and they did arrest 6 people. I don't know that that's enough, but maybe it's what they could get done. I've not watched this video, but I want to see.
Right now, you can see people running in opposite directions. And
you
on
see
the other side
Eric,
of that. Yeah, Tyler.
I do want to. Yeah, Eric, we're far enough away. You'll see the officer right there with APD. He has what appears to be zip ties. We're not far enough down where we can't see if they've taken anyone into custody, but it did appear that they were ready to do that to try to calm the situation that's unfolding here. And as you said, this really a protest initially to try to protest what happened on Wednesday here, where they were handing out that vehicle still up in flames here over at Andrew Young and Peachtree. And if you take a look over here, if you pan over, I want to show you, this is what they were handing out at that protest. So it was a largely peaceful protest where they just wanted what they're calling justice so sorry. And right now,
That's the dirt bag.
We'll see. Basically, they want justice for him after the shooting that happened when Atlanta police and the different law enforcement agencies were raiding the forest over there to try to
largely peaceful protest with the burning cop car.
You shot a cop. You shot a cop. What justice? You get what you deserve. You shot a cop. Like, the justice was served. They took out the dirtbag that shot a police officer. Now, I'm not saying that we need to institute martial law or anything, but we do have to have law and order. Are we a nation of laws or not? If we are a nation of laws, then you enforce the law. It is that simple. Police chiefs, pull out the SWAT. Governors, call in the backup from your National Guard. That is what those systems are there for. Now, I'm not saying bust up protests. If there is a protest, let them protest. But there is a line, and we have let people step over that line over and over and over to a point where you would see pallets of bricks showing up in cities so that they could throw bricks at cops.
Right.
That is a deadly weapon.
Right. And the game the media plays is that if something starts as a protest, then it was a protest. And then once it becomes a riot, it was mostly if we did protests for 90% of the time and then rioted for 10% of the time, it was still mostly peaceful, even though 4 people could have died in that last 10%.
Call it what it is. It's something that started as a protest that became a riot. Call it what it is. A protest that became a riot.
Protesting is not
illegal. And let people know
like,
that if you go participate in these protests in these places organized by these people, it's probably going to turn into a riot. And do you want to be associated with that? Be upfront with people. Again, I'm not saying to protest. We have a First Amendment right to protest, but we do not have a right to riot.
As much as I would love to be dictator of America and tamp down on all of the bad ideas in our society, protesting is a decent process by which good change can be made. Not lately, unless you're counting something like the March for Life. That was another story we didn't cover. There was the sports commentator, Dungy. So I don't remember. Somebody will look it up, but it talked about how he was going to attend the March for Life, and everybody got up in arms about that. Anyway, that is again one of the good stories that we did not have on our list. All right, so we have one more story here that we're going to talk about, and I lost Steven, but he's trying to get back in. There he is. Okay, so Steven, that is everything except for our last story. You want to bring us in?
Yeah, so I will bring this in, talking again about a nation of laws. There was a shooting in California over the weekend. Terrible situation where 10 people were wounded, 10 people were killed, so 20 fatalities in total. Well, I'm just going to read this straight from the Daily Wire. Ben Whitehead reporting. It was fairly short, so I thought I would just read this for you. It says 10 people are dead and at least 10 more are hospitalized after a mass shooting during a Lunar New Year celebration in a Los Angeles suburb late Saturday night. The shooting occurred in a dance studio in Monterey Park, a predominantly Asian community about 10 miles east of LA. According to a local reporter, police believe they know who the suspect is, but he has not been named or located, or no motive has been announced. That has changed, by the way. At a press conference Sunday morning, LA County Sheriff Robert Luna said the suspect had been primarily described as a male Asian between 30 and 50 years old. Luna said the deceased included 5 males and 5 females. The sheriff's department released photographs of the suspect gunman, who was still at large late Sunday morning. He has since been apprehended. I believe the last report says he was shot and killed. Law enforcement said the man is also a suspect in a second incident in Alhambra that occurred after the Monterey Park killing and should be considered armed and dangerous. Authorities said they are withholding the suspect's name, citing concerns that releasing it would negatively impact their efforts to take him into custody. Law enforcement was dispatched at 10:22 p.m. Saturday after the shooter fled. When officers arrived on scene, they observed numerous individuals, patrons, pouring out of the location screaming. The officers made entry into the location and located additional victims. LA County Sheriff Sheriff's Captain Andrew Mayer said. Mayer said that 10 of the victims were pronounced dead at the scene by firefighters, and 10 more were taken to hospital or in stable to critical conditions. One man who lives near the dance studio told Los Angeles Times that his friend was in the bathroom shooting, and when she came out, she saw 3 bodies and a gunman. His friend said the killer appeared to be firing at random with a long gun, according to the LA Times. And so those are the important information surrounding this case. What is not said in that article, because when Daily Wire does news articles, they're pretty straightforward about it, is that as soon as this started happening, you started seeing your blue check marks on Twitter saying F the NRA and F white supremacy and stop Asian hate and all these things. And automatically everybody said this was a white man shooting Asians. For the record, most Asian crimes committed by non-Asians are not by white men. White men are not the ones who are doing Asian hate. Look up the statistics. It's black and Hispanics more than white. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't some white on Asian crime or whatever, but whenever someone saw the story and saw where it was and read that it was a 65% Asian community, the mind should have immediately gone to another Asian doing this, because the vast majority of crimes, murders, are done in between in single races. It's more white on white crime. You will find more whites murdering whites than you will find blacks murdering whites, Hispanic murdering whites, Asians murdering whites, so on and so forth. And that is true through all of the races. This is a tragic event, but I would say again, if you're in California, you shouldn't be surprised by this. Whenever you make it so difficult for someone to protect themselves and protect their family, and you basically cannot take a gun outside of your home, you should expect these type of activities to happen.
Right. All of California is a soft target.
Yeah, the whole city, and this is something that is very near and dear to mine and Jeff's heart, because everybody looks at Mississippi now and they think that Mississippi has always been blood red and therefore we've always had very loose gun laws, but that's not the case. In my lifetime, we have seen a major loosening of gun laws, and we've seen it be so beneficial. Most people forget that the first mass school shooting happened in Mississippi. It happened at Pearl High School in 1995. It was not Columbine. Now, Columbine was terrible. It was awful. But the first mass shooting happened in Mississippi. And after that, we started to see the reduction in gun laws. And we started to see the loosening of gun laws. And Mississippi has become a much safer place for that. Our children have become much safer for that, because the law, it's the same thing that I've said before. The law can only help you so much. The average police response time is what, 4-5 minutes, 1,000 feet per second. That's how it works. Don't make yourself a soft target. It's that simple.
All right. And it goes back to what I was saying. Just as you make it harder for police to do their job, which California is one of the worst. You know, this kind of thing is more commonplace, and so it becomes more important to be able to defend yourself. Average
That's right.
police response time in one place might be 4 or 5 minutes. In California, it might be 7 or 8. Just depending on the level of funding, and so get somewhere where you can be safe and you can protect your family, because
And don't buy into the lie that is propagated on the left about a good guy with a gun doesn't stop a bad guy with a gun. Whenever we had a huge amount of mass shootings under Obama. We had significantly less under Donald Trump. I think we've had more under Joe Biden than we had under all of Donald Trump's tenure, because believe it or not, who your president is important. And whenever their message is, we are a nation of laws and we have law and order, that affects the general psychology of the people. That affects the general opinion of the people. And again, if people think that they are less likely to get caught, then they are less likely to commit that they are more likely to do these crimes. However, when they think that there's a high probability that they will get caught or they will get shot and killed, they are less likely to do these crimes. There's a reason that the vast majority of mass shootings and gun crimes happen in soft target areas with no gun zone areas, is what people say. Protect yourselves, protect your people, and remember, nearly all shootings end with a good guy with a gun, whether it be a citizen or police officer. Nearly all shootings end by a good guy with a gun. Don't let anybody tell you different.
So where do you want to live? Do you, I mean, because we are currently 2 different countries, and
Yes.
we are just sharing the same space, and you need to decide what side you want to be on, because one side, we want to protect the weak and the innocent. We want to allow you to be able to protect yourselves, but we also want to empower the people that are supposed to protect you. And the other side, which is the side that is winning right now, the side that affects us all, is the side that empowers the predators, empowers the pedophiles. We have,
and they do it in the name of justice. How perverted is that? How 1984 Orwellian nonsense is that?
We have 2 sets of laws. The determining factor on what set of laws applies to you depends on your skin tone. It depends on who you like to sleep with. I'm just so done. So it comes to a boiling point, and people need to be careful. And this is not something I wish for. It's not something I enjoy. It's not something I like. But it comes to a point where people of responsible bent have to start taking matters into their own hands. There are things happening in my life that, like, I'm going to get to a point where I am not. You can make it illegal for me to defend myself, and I'm just no longer going to listen. You can make it politically untenable for my family to be protected, and I'm just not going to take you seriously. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to do whatever is necessary, whether legal or not, to make sure the people in my life are safe and protected. And
let's go back to the first story and the first concept that we talked about. in other countries, it is illegal to say a lot of the things that we have said on this podcast. It is flat out illegal to speak out against someone's sexual orientation. It is illegal to speak out against transgenderism. It is illegal to speak out against these things. And if we think that America, that would never happen in America, you need to think again, because there are constantly people trying to make that happen. They are radical. They are militant about making those things happen. And so to be so naive as to think that won't happen, you're wrong. And so, when are the churches going to stand up and talk truth about this situation? And I wholly expect in my lifetime that it is illegal to teach that homosexuality, transgenderism, the gender spectrum, all that nonsense will be illegal to teach and preach from the gospel from the pulpit. I wholly expect that to be the situation. The question is how we're going to respond. Like you said, good people have to take matters into their own hands, in the sense that we must obey God rather than men. That's what Acts 5:29 says.
That's the best way to put it. Yes.
Yeah, we must obey God rather than men. God has given man the right to protect himself. Now, I'm not saying that we can go out and kill people willy-nilly, but self-protection is in the Bible. Complete pacifism against protecting against predators or protecting your family or all that. That's not a concept that is found in the scriptures. And again, like you said, people try to use it again. Well, Jesus says love. I'm not saying don't love. I'm saying that we obey the Bible. And your concept of love is wrong. What you say love is wrong. If you want to read about what love is, read the scriptures, because Jesus felt so much compassion on someone. He told them that he was in sin, and that if he didn't fix it, he was going to die. That was the rich young ruler, Mark 10:19 and following. Go look it up.
Certainly.
That's what love is. That's what compassion is. It's telling people truth.
And they're still like, this is not that time. That time that I'm talking about is not current, is not now.
It's not now in America.
Unless maybe if you live in Atlanta.
Yeah, or you live in Canada, or you live in much of Europe, where they're not allowed to speak the truth about what is going on and how it's affecting our young people.
And I've not completely given up on course correction. Make sure that your local area, because that's what you have the control over. You have no control over what they decide federally, because the people that you send to Congress don't care about you. They don't care about your needs. They're focused on their own. I think we've discussed that at length on this show. But local, legal, that's the current motto. The credit to Jesse Kelly for that, because he talks about it all the time. Go win over your school board. Go win over your school board, put the right people in the sheriff's department, that kind of thing. And then try to work your way up to the state, to where your state actually, your GOP at the state level is worth a dadgum, and will actually protect you from the encroachment of the federal government. Because
that's what I fear. Yeah, I fear that the republicanism that exists in Mississippi is too establishment.
Blood red states have the laziest GOP.
Yeah, because they're not in the fight. Yeah, but I want to go back to the concept about we live in two different countries. That's not going to get better, friends. That's not going to get easier. That is going to be a continuing trend where the country is separated. And honestly, that's federalism, isn't it?
You need to balkanize. You need to move to an area in line with your values to make it more in line with your values.
And that's what federalism is. The highest number, not concentration, the highest pure population of Republicans is in California. You're wasting your vote. You're not going to change California. You're not going to split the state. You're not going to fix it. You need to go somewhere that is more in line with your values and do right and make it attractive and show people that it works. That's what's happened in Florida. That's what is happening in Texas. That is what is happening in Tennessee. Those places are getting a large influx of people because Republicans there are doing right by their people and everybody else is seeing it. That's federalism. That is what will fix this problem. Like I said, it's going to continue to get worse but it's going to continue to get worse because people are going to stay and they're going to think that is a workable solution. And the federal government will get a Democrat every 4, 8, 10 years, however long a Democrat goes in office, and they'll bail out those states, and they'll keep being heaps of trash.
Right.
They'll keep allowing the illegal immigrants. They'll keep allowing the homelessness. They'll keep allowing open syringes and feces where their children play. And if people want to live there, okay, live there. I'm not going to live in a place like that. And I thank God that I do not live in a place like that.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that I forewarned everyone this time, at least. This was not a happy episode. Got my blood pressure up. I'm going to go chill out a little bit. But these are important things, and I hate that there were so many other important stories that we couldn't get to this week. But there is always next week, and the news cycle keeps on turning.
That's right.
But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Let us know, obviously, what you think, and I don't know, just offer solutions. Things need to get better, because this has been a dark week in the news cycle. So
I just thank God that we didn't talk about our hometown again this week. That our hometown was out of the news cycle, and that we're just trying to help other people see the light is what we're trying to do.
Right. So hopefully everything in your personal life was fine this week, and we pray that everything continues apace for you. And so that's it for me. Stephen, any parting words?
I just want to say, like you said, we can get our blood pressure going whenever we look at national coverage, when we think, how can we let this happen? Well, you can't control what happens in other places. You can only control what happens in your life. And so stay true to God, stay true to his word, and practice faithfulness. And that is how we fix this country. Fix this country one family at a time, obeying the will of God. That is what we need to do as a people. And the nation of laws is God's law first, man's law second, and then family law third. And that is how we're going to fix this. So that's the departing words I have, is to go out, be blessed, and hopefully you'll have a great week serving the Lord.
Thank you. All right. We will see all of you next week. Who knows what we'll be talking about then. Take care. Hey, you've just finished listening to an episode of Always Right. If you like what you heard and want to help support the channel, please be sure to like the video and follow us on Facebook or subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please consider rating the podcast 5 stars. And as always, please leave us a comment, whether hateful or glowing, as we appreciate the feedback. Tune in next week for another episode of Always Right with Jeff and Stephen.